Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we are discussing a horological hero. This is the IWC Grande Complication, reference 377001. If you like this watch, please subscribe to our YouTube channel right here, and you'll get my videos as soon as tomorrow morning straight to your inbox. Plus, I'd really appreciate it. And you can buy this watch and 1,700 of its closest friends on thewatchbox.com. Buy, trade, and sell luxury watches on thewatchbox.com. This watch launched as a milestone piece for IWC at Basel World, back when IWC was at Basel, in 1990. It had a long run, though it was infrequently produced between 1990 and 2010. This was a special piece because it marked one of the first modern era wristwatch grand complications, a phrase thrown around often in the pre-wristwatch era. They were precious and scarce, and principally constructed on commission in the wristwatch era prior to the launch of this model and its counterparts at Patek Philippe in the early 1990s. So this was a truly important, formative watch for the industry as a whole as mechanical horology made its comeback. It was a monster back in 1990 at 42.3 millimeters in diameter. The watch was considered to be an absolute aberration then. It actually has a handsome and surprisingly familiar wrist presence now. It is thick, no doubt. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, you can see it's 16.4 millimeters thick, but the lug-to-lug span is actually 48.4 millimeters, so significantly under 50. It's 51 lug-to-lug on a 40 millimeter Rolex sub with a solid end-link bracelet. So if you can wear a Rolex 40 millimeter, you can wear this. I would even say that because the lug-to-lug is under 50 millimeters, you could wear this on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. IWC gave the watch a surprisingly progressive lug spacing. Back in 1990, the era of skinny straps, this one had a 22 millimeter spacing, which planted the watch nicely so it wasn't inclined to torque back and forth or wobble on the wrist. Now, the timepiece does have a nice set of deep and sharply sculpted lugs. You can see how they really wrap around the wrist, making this large watch wearable even back in the day. It had an immense amount of presence. Eyes open and closed. Eyes open, it's spectacular. Eyes closed, you've got a deep case, massive lugs, and a solid platinum case back. It is an absolute privilege and a pleasure to wear this much platinum on your wrist. I should also mention that it features a matching IWC platinum pin buckle, PT950 corresponding, and a wonderfully substantial IWC factory strap. Large rectangular scale alligator leather, semi-gloss and black on the top, monotone stitch and folded edges with supple calfskin on the underside. The case of the watch is simple and shiny. As you can see, all of high polish. The watch wears it well because it has a remarkably modular look to it, with each element of the structure seemingly standing out as a separate sculptural item rather than forming a monolithic whole. You'll note there's even a little bit of faceting about the tip of the lug on both sides to break up the mass of metal. And there's also a combination of handsome curves and sharp masculine creases to add definition, as well as a sort of gentle, sensuous appeal to the watch equally in both measures. Now the dial of it, and we should get as close as we can here and allow ourselves a bit more aperture and light. The dial is sensational. As you can see, it is white lacquered, an aventurine moon phase at 12 o'clock, and all applied yellow gold indices and yellow gold hands at center. Polished yellow gold chapter rings for each of the sunken sub-registers, and you'll note the watch features chronograph functions, including chronograph seconds, chronograph minutes, circling the moon phase, chronograph hours, a perpetual calendar, including the day, the date, and the month, and the year, and the decade, and the century, and the millennium. That's a remarkable amount of information, and you get all of that with automatic winding and the minute repeater, which chimes the time on demand. So this is a lot of watch then and a lot of watch now. The chronograph might be the king of complications, and the minute repeater might be the ultimate, really the only grand complication between tourbillon, perpetual calendar, minute repeater, and split-second chronograph. The minute repeater is the only one that hasn't been industrialized and serialized. So this is a truly special watch. You'll also note that the timepiece features a handsome case profile with a small crown, which is a screw down, and vintage-inspired lozenge or rectangular chronograph pushers, and even these are not a default design, as you'll see they're beveled on each side. Very handsome. The timepiece is sensational, and I have to say, though I'm not a fan of two-tone as a rule, two-tone in this particular instance, where it's an element to enliven and color the dial, is something I appreciate immensely. You have yellow gold, you have the white gloss base, you have the blue of the hands and the moon phase. Absolutely sensational. Underneath the case back, well, it began life as a Valjoux 7750, but by the time IWC was finished, this was a manufacture movement. You take the 7750 base, unidirectional winding, automatic, 28,800 vibration per hour, hacking seconds, and of course, you add the Kurt Claus Perpetual Calendar system. So now you have a programmed perpetual calendar whereby everything is adjusted in sync. All you do is set the correct date for the month that you're currently in, and the watch automatically steps the day, it steps the moon phase, it steps the year. Everything moves in sync, so you don't have to look up the correct day, date, and moon phase and align everything. One point of control, mechanically programmed out to the year 2100. The chronograph, again, it's the V7750 44-hour power reserve, tank tough, and tri-registers, no corners cut. You get right up to 12 hours, not just minutes and seconds. Finally, the minute repeater, which is built on the dial side of the watch. 2 modules, the Kurt Claus Perpetual Calendar system made by IWC, and IWC's own minute repeater module. It is a nicely finished movement, though you'll never see the caliber 79091. Rest assured, it's finished a significant cut above your average 7750. And I should mention, it is immensely complicated with 75 jewels crafted in-house at Schaffhausen. This watch, a grand complication for your wrist, continues the tradition of Swiss complicated watchmaking in the modern era. It's really, as a 1990 debut, a bridge between the era of commissioned grand complications of the likes of James Ward Packard and Henry Graves, and the modern era of immensely complicated watchmaking. This watch is the bridge between those two ages of man and eras of watchmaking. At 42 millimeters, this one's no longer a monster and viable across a broad range of wrists, even skinny ones like mine. You can put this watch on your wrist on our website.